Welcome to week 5, part 2, distance between the pair of points. To start, we review with the distance formula. So we still have 2 points, x1 and y1, x2 and y2. Right here and here. And to calculate the distance between those 2 points, let's call this one point P and this one point Q. PQ is the distance between the 2 points. And we're using the Pythagorean theorem to solve for this type of questions. We know that we have C is the hypotenuse, which is the PQ in this case. And we have to find A and B. Our A and B is the difference between the x2 and x1, the y2 and y1. So this is A and B. D is the hypotenuse. So that's how we have the distance formula. So let's practice on some questions. Now we have point A at -3, 1 and point B at 5, 6. Okay, so the distance, the A, B is square root of that square, right? Now we plug in. We have -3 and 5. So -3, remember, is always subtract. Okay, so -3 for the first x. The second x is 5. The first y is 1. The second y is 6. So right now, some people will be like asking, so which one is x1 and x2, y1 and y2? It doesn't matter as long as the point when you start with, it have to be at the same coordinate of the same point. So for example, I can take the x of A, subtract x of B, square, adding the y of A, subtract the y of B, square. That will give me the same of x of B first, minus x of A, square, plus, because you start with x of P, so you have to start with y of B as well, minus y of A, square. So that is equivalent, that is the same, because we just care about the distance. Anyway, we will square, so the negative inside doesn't matter. Alright, now we can continue calculate. So in this case, I take the x of A, subtract the x of B. So if we plug in there, it will be, this one is x2, this one y2, this one x1, this one is y1. This is just the name you're calling it, so it doesn't matter. As long as the first x, like the first point you use, the coordinate you use, you have to do both for x and y for the first positions. Alright, and then the second one, of course, the rest, right? This one equal negative a squared plus minus 5 square, right? Then take the square root. That's 64 plus 25. And one more notice is the distance is always greater than or equal to 0. Always. If it's equal 0, it means the point, 2 point is locations on the same positions. So the red point and the blue point is one underneath, one on the top. So that's why all is the same locations. That's why the distance is 0. As long as it's further, they do have the distance, and that distance have to be positive. This one, the distance always positive. And it makes sense because under the square root is always positive in this case because you square the x and square the difference of the y. So that will be positive inside under square root. So make the square root positive as well. Now this one equal square root of 4 plus 5 is 9. 6 plus 2 is 8. Square root of 89. And this one greater than 9. Because square root 9 is equal square root of 81. Okay. So for this questions, we apply the distance formula for point P and Q. So P and Q, the distance between those points is equal to x of B minus x of Q is 5. Add y of P minus y of Q, all square. So 3 minus 5 is negative 2 square plus 7 add 1. Minus negative 1 is plus 1. So 8 square. And this one equal 4 plus 64. Take square root. That's square root of 68. And square root of 68. For 68, you can rewrite as 4 times 17. So the square root of 68 is square root of 4 times square root of 17 and is equal to square root of 17. Okay, so for this questions, when we apply, we will have PQ just one by one plug in, so we have 63. Subtract the 59 square, that's the x value, and then plus we have the first y is minus 79 minus, and then the second one negative 69 all square. This one is 4 square plus. Now negative 79 subtract negative 69, the same thing as negative 79 plus 69. That is negative 10 square. And that equal to 16 plus 100 under square root. That 116. And 116, you can break it down at 4 times 29. So it will be square root of 4 times square root of 29. And it's 2 square root of 29. Okay, number 9. So A and B will be equal to square root of the first one. 4 square root of 3 subtract 7 square root of 3 square plus open parenthesis the first y minus 2 square root of 5 subtract the last one minus 4 square root of 5 square equal 4 subtract 7 negative 3 square root of 3 square negative 2 square root of 5 subtract negative 4 square root of 5 is mean plus. Right here mean plus. So that will be 2 square root of 5 square. Take the square root. Then we have 3 square times 3. 9 times 3, 27. Plus 2 square is 4 times 5, 20. That equals square root of 47. And that is prime number. So we good with that answer. So let's talk about some common mistake for this type of questions. Because we have the midpoint is x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2 for the midpoint, right? So people usually will be getting the inside right here is positive as well. So that's the first common mistake, right? So we find the difference between the coordinate x or y and sum them up. Okay, some people mistake about this one to be negative. Some people forgot the square root when they try to calculate the under the square root. So the first one is the side. Okay. Also, because we have like the negative y value or x value, like this one is easy to make mistake when we not distribute that negative in and still keeping the negative only. So for example, they will do like minus 2 square root of 5. Instead of write subtract negative 4 square root of 5, they do negative 4 square root of 5 like that. So that will be different. That will be negative 6 square root of 5. Instead of the right answer is 2 square root of 5. And sometimes they forgot that they have to be square those difference. And at last step, sometimes they forgot to simplify. So making sure you check all of that before you have your final answer. To be continued, we're working on this problem. Now we have a b equal square root of -3 subtract 7 square plus now 4 subtract -2 square. That will be -10 square plus 6 square. 100 plus 36 under square root 136. And 136, remember we have to check if it can break down into smaller. Nice. Plug that 4 times 34. 4 times 34. So that equal square root of 4 times square root of 34. That is 2 square root of 34. Why we not break down 34? Because even you break it down, it will be 2 times 17. And those are prime. We could not take it out of the square root, so we just keep it. Next questions, we have a b equals square root of, now the first number 61 subtract 68 square plus 79 subtract 70 square. Now between 68 and 61 the difference is 7. So -7 square plus 9 square. Okay, so we have 49 plus 81. That equal 9 plus 1 is 10, write 0, remember 1. So a plus 5 is 13 under square root. And we say that we have 2 times 65 is 130. And 65 can rewrite as 2 times 5 times 13. And those are prime numbers, so we could not break it. The one we want to break down is we want 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, because those can be right at 2 square, 3 square, 4 square, 5 square, 6 square. And because of that, we can get rid of the square root. And that makes our answer look nicer. So PQ in this questions will be square root of 3 square root of 2 subtract square root of 2 all square plus 5 square root of 3 subtract negative square root of 3 square. Right. That equal 3 square root of 2 minus square root of 2 have 2 square root of 2. that square plus 5 add 1 is 6 square root of 3 all square. One common mistake we usually have rather than this one is we forgot to put the all square. I mean this one that different from that, because this one we will understand as 2 times square root of 2 square will be 2, and that is 4. That different from this is 2 square is 4 times square root of 2 square is 2, that is 8. How we distribute? So 2 square root of 2 square, that rewrite as 2 square times square root of 2 square. So that's how we got 4 times 2. That is like easy to forget about the parentheses. Alright, now we continue. So we have 2 square root of 2 square is 8. Because 2 square is 4. Square root of 2 square is 2. 2 times 4 is 8. Plus, similar, we have 6 square times square root of 3 square. And that will be 36 times 3. That is 108. And don't forget, it's under square root. Now that will be 116. And we have that before. We can break it down. Square root of 4 times square root of 29. So that is 2 square root of 29. Thank you for participating in this video. I hope this video helpful. See you next time.